How many discounts does USAA Auto Insurance offer? Too many to say here. Multi-vehicle discount, safe driver discount, new vehicle discount, storage discount, legacy.
How many discounts will you stack up? Visit USAA.com/auto discounts. Restrictions apply.
Shh. Hear that? Big waves are calling. Dive into refreshment with Kona Big Wave. Tropical flavor and the taste of aloha in every drop. So crack one open and let the great taste roll in. Kona Big Wave, Liquid Aloha. Copyright 2025 Kona Brewing Co., St. Louis, Missouri. Mahalo for enjoying responsibly.
Hello everybody and welcome to 3D Printing Basics. I just wanted to let you know that if you're interested in getting every single episode a week before its release and ad-free, then please head over to my Patreon. The link will be in the show notes, and like I said, you can get every single episode ad-free and a week before its initial release date. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I hope you like this episode. Hello, and welcome to 3D Printing Basics. This is episode number 72, and in this week's episode, we're going to be discussing whether it is still worth it to get into 3D printing in the year 2025. We are going to talk about some reasons why it still is worth it, some reasons why it might not be worth it anymore, and how it still can be useful to you in your everyday life, whether you are just a hobbyist who wants to make things for fun, or somebody like me who wants to turn it into a business. Before we get started, I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for listening. Your support means the world to me. And with that being said, let's get right into today's episode. All right, so it's no secret that 3D printing has evolved rapidly since I started in 2020. Whether it was just 5 years ago, we have had 50 years worth of change in that short of time. Bambu Labs came in and absolutely flipped the market on its head. Printers got exponentially faster, they got exponentially cheaper, and they got more plug and play versus the sort of tinkering kits that was fun to mod and things like that. I would say that is probably where the biggest change has come in 3D printing. Rather than speed or anything like that, I would say there's a lot more plug and play machines versus kits where people can tinker with them or mod them. I would say most of the new printers that are coming out are plug and play, ready to go, very little or no assembly required. So that's definitely something to think about. But overall, the short answer is yes, 3D printing is absolutely still worth getting into, whether you want to do it as a hobby or whether you want to do it as a business. I'm going to be talking mostly from a business sense today just because that's the perspective I have. I still print things for myself from time to time, but I would say probably about 98 to 99% of what I print is business related. I also want to talk about some other things that's changed in the last 5 years. So, of course, we got price. You know, back in the day, Ender 3s, they were probably around $250 to $200 on the good end, and they weren't the best machines. They were able to print and make what you want, but they were super, super slow, and they took a while, and there was lots of tinkering that needed to be done. It was just an overall pain with my very first printer, my Creality Ender 3. And nowadays, for the same price, you can get a nice Bambu Labs A1 that has the automatic bed leveling. It's probably about 5 times faster than that Ender 3. The quality is better. Everything about it is better. And so that means that the price to entry is lower because while you might be spending the same amount of money to get your first printer, what you are getting for your dollars goes a lot longer. It goes a long, long way, and it's a lot better than what it was just 5 years ago. On the other hand, the tools are better. The slicers, Bambu Studio, Orca Slicer, Cura Slicer, even Prusa Slicer, they've all received significant updates and overall are a lot better tools to use than the ones that I was using 5 years ago. And you also have the AI design tools, Gravity Sketch, Dream Fusion, basically tools that can design things for you just with a little bit of prompting. And so overall, there's just a lot more automation between the AI designs as well as the auto bed leveling, the pressure advance, smart retraction. all that stuff, the micro LiDAR and the Bambu Lab X1C, I would say there's just a lot more automation in the 3D printing industry, whereas I remember my first Creality Ender 3 that I got, there was zero automation in it. I literally had to do everything from bed leveling to getting the flow rate right to everything. I just had to do everything myself, and it made it a real pain to get everything dialed in and get a good print going. This episode is brought to you by PCBWay. Ready to take your electronics projects to the next level? PCBWay offers everything you need, from custom PCBs to 3D printing and even CNC machining, all under one roof. They're trusted by engineers and makers worldwide for their exceptional quality and fast turnaround. And here's a special deal for listeners of 3D Printing Basics. Use the promo code 3DPrintingSquared, SQUARED, to get $10 off your first order. Start your next project with PCBWay and see the difference for yourself. Head over to PCBWay.com today. Now that we've discussed what's changed, I would like to talk about who should still get into 3D printing, because I do believe there are sort of categories of people that should and shouldn't get into 3D printing. And so number one, definitely what this podcast is all about, the hobbyists, the beginner makers. There's still a lot that you can gain from 3D printing if you have never done it before. You can gain a whole different level of manufacturing. You can gain design insights. You can learn CAD software. You can learn 3D modeling. There's so many different points of learning that you can pick up just from getting a 3D printer. So there's still a lot of positive and a lot of new skills. And it's just overall, it's an absolute positive net gain if you are trying to get into 3D printing. It still makes a lot of sense, especially if you're just doing it for fun. If you're just doing it to learn something, tinker, anything like that, it still makes a lot of sense to get into 3D printing. And also, if you're running your own business, if you're a maker or a designer of some kind, whether you're maybe, I don't know, a machinist, if you're a woodworker, just an overall manufacturer like that, the rapid prototyping that you can get from 3D printing is still unmatched out there today. If you say you are going to carve a giant piece out of some Inconite, which is just an insanely hard metal, it's really expensive, and you only have one shot at it, you don't want to mess it up. So then you can 3D print what you are eventually going to make, and you can test it, make sure everything is good, everything is dimensionally accurate, make sure everything is correct before you go and risk it on that giant, heavy, super expensive chunk of metal for the final product. So it's still something that makes a lot of sense for business owners as a prototyping or a proof of concept thing to use. 3D printing is still the way to go there. Also, educators and students, the STEAM or STEM benefits, 3D printing still makes a lot of sense. It's a great class to have. I wish every single school, whether it be elementary, middle, or high school, I wish they had just 3D printing class or a manufacturing class overall. There is a lot of high schools who will have it in their makerspace, which I know is really, really great. And I just think every school should get a 3D printer. There's just so much you can learn on it. There's so much you can make, and it's really easy for kids, especially kids these days with how tech savvy they are, to pick it up and learn it really, really fast and then develop critical skills that can help them out in the real world. Another option is that if you are a service provider and you have a real niche, if you have something, I can't even think of an example. If you have a real niche in your business, then you can absolutely still thrive in the 3D printing space. Now let's talk about what's not worth it anymore. If you're trying to build a generic Etsy store with cookie cutter keychains and just following trends, whatever that is, without any real niche, that is not worth it anymore. There are 15 bajillion Etsy shops that are trying to do the same exact thing. The market is so saturated, there's nothing you can do to really stand out anymore. And so that is just something that if you do find success, it's going to be a flash in the pan. You're going to get lucky. The algorithm is just going to randomly choose you, and then it's never going to choose you again. So that's definitely something to consider if you're just trying to build a low-effort store that just follows trends without any real niche. Then that is something that just isn't going to work anymore, because there's thousands of Etsy shops and just online shops overall that are already doing that, and there's no real way to stand out. So that's definitely something to consider if you were just looking at 3D printing as like an easy money sort of solution. it's not that. You need to put in a lot of work and you need to find a real niche before you decide to actually get in there. If you were a business that was looking to get into 3D printing, then what I would suggest is target your local area. If you find some local business mixers, join your chamber of commerce, there's a lot of high margin local print work that you can definitely get a hold of. And because there's not a lot of people doing it, I know in my area, I'm the only 3D print service provider, prototyper, additive manufacturer. I'm the only one within 50 miles, I've checked. So you can definitely find a niche there in targeting your local area and partnering with local businesses. There's still a lot of high margin work that you can do that makes a lot of sense if you wanted to start a business. I would like to talk about my thought process, especially throughout the years, because I think it's important to hear what I was thinking while all this innovation was going on. When I first got started, I thought 3D printing was genius. I thought you just press start, you walk away, you come back, and you immediately have something that you can sell for very low margin, very high margin, because it would be very low cost. And then I could essentially just print money. That was the thought process. And I wouldn't even say that was true then. I would say even in 2020 in those times, you still need to put in the work in order to be successful. You need to find a niche. You need to design your own stuff. That was the biggest problem for me for the longest time, was my Etsy shop that I had for the first few years that had absolutely no niche. And so the Etsy algorithm would pick up one of my listings. It would be really popular for a few months, and then that listing would never sell another one again, as it just kept jumping because I didn't have any kind of niche. So the algorithm didn't know what customers to push my shop to, because I was just I was all over the place. And that's what I learned. I since have a new Etsy shop that is incredibly niche, and Etsy is really good at finding the right customers who want my products, and it's very, very successful. So that would probably be the biggest point or tip that I would offer if you're trying to start an online shop, is that you absolutely need to find a niche. You cannot just be general. You cannot be changing what you sell every couple of months, because you need to give that algorithm a direction to point to and to find the customers that you are looking for. So that's definitely something to consider if you're doing that. But I would say overall, 3D printing is still very much worth it to get into. It's not dead. I would say it's better than ever. The machines are better. The tools that you can use to make stuff are better. And you can absolutely make a thriving business out of it if you find your niche and get to the right spot. And with that being said, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed learning a little something about 3D printing, and I hope that you now know that it is very much worth getting into. Thank you guys so much for listening. I appreciate all the support, and I'll talk to you.
This episode is brought to you by FX's Alien Earth, the official podcast. Each week, host Adam Rogers is joined by guests, including the show's creator, cast, and crew, in this exclusive companion podcast. They will explore story elements, deep dive into character motivations, and offer an episode-by-episode behind-the-scenes breakdown of each terrifying chapter in this new series. Search FX's Alien Earth wherever you listen to podcasts.
You guys next time.